All right. Hey, everybody. Hope you're doing well on this Friday. Welcome to another 365 deep dive with myself, John Moore, and my friend Andy Honeycutt. It's going to be an interesting one to talk about today. We decided that we're going to chat about chat bots and all of the recent news about artificial intelligence, generative AI, all of those topics. It's a real hot topic right now, and even a whole bunch of stuff has changed just in the past like week and a half since we scheduled it. So, Andy, I know that this is something that you've been like super pumped about, doing a ton of testing, a lot of finding out like how we could use some of this technology in like personal productivity and collaboration. So, I think it's going to be a really fun topic to chat about today.
Yeah, I agree. I've really been looking forward to this one. I've been using ChatGPT, OpenAI, and the new Bing for quite a while now. I got on the wait list for Bing early on, and
Hmm.
I'm really excited to see where these tools and technologies are going to go. I think Microsoft's also super excited because they're rolling this into like every single platform that it seems. But this one should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll have to do some predictions later on. I think it'll be interesting to see where a lot of this stuff pops into the Microsoft 365 products. We've already seen, trying to capture headlines and stuff that Microsoft has, talked a little bit about, um, OpenAI powered intelligent recaps in Teams. Jeff Teeper put out a blog not too long after that saying, "Hey, look forward to the M365 conference in May. They're going to have a lot more announcements then." I wouldn't be surprised if some more announcements come between now and May for how they're going to like integrate these in the products. But that might be something we'll have to talk about today as well. Is like, where do we see this like fitting in, more natively? And I think what a lot of people are probably going to think about is like, are these going to be premium features? Who's paying for all this type of stuff? Because we found out, like Andy and I, we just got Notion AI, and we were really excited about it until to find out that there's almost no free trial. It's like 20 total AI calls, and then you got to pay for it. I think it's going to be quite a different model this time around. It's not quite so ad supported. You're going to have to pay for it. So yeah.
Yeah, the pricing on some of this stuff is going to be really interesting to figure out. To your point, I think Microsoft is going to look at making this a premium option in most cases. I think there'll be some freebie that goes along with it, such as like the Microsoft Bing and the chat chat that they have there. But I think as they start to roll
Hmm.
into some products, you're going to see it as a premium product. But I think the market is going to adjust the price because it seems like everybody is piling on. They're building their own AI, whether it's an offshoot of OpenAI or
Hmm.
whether they are creating their own version of it. I think we were talking a little bit about Notion and the version of AI and that they were rolling into their product, and how it's a little bit
Hmm.
different than some of the other offerings that are out there. I know Google is ramping up Bard to compete with Microsoft's Bing, so it seems like we are just
Hmm.
getting started in the AI wars. So I would imagine there'll be a influx across the whole market for all these different services, and then the pricing will kind of start to reflect that. Um, but I expect from the Microsoft end that there will be some premium to go along with this, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we move
Hmm.
through today's deep dive.
Yeah, definitely. So, um, where do you want to start, Andy? I think you published a video about a week and a half ago, right? Because you got Bing Chat like right at the beginning. You published a video. It kind of took off, showing a demo, and I think it'd be cool to maybe recap the the Bing experience and what we've learned just even since then, like what has changed in the past just week and a half with Bing, and kind of talk about like especially using a lot of the like really integrated sidebar and stuff like that. What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
so let's recap off of that just a little bit.
Okay.
So I will shamelessly plug the video that I did on it.
Hmm.
Um, the video's on YouTube, hands-on with a new Bing powered by OpenAI. We'll put that in the video links and whatnot. But it's super easy to find, hands-on with the new Bing powered by OpenAI. So, brief recap, and I'll just kind of through it. On uh, Tuesday, February 7th, Microsoft had a press event in Redmond, Washington, where they were talking about reinventing search with the new AI powered Microsoft. It's powered by OpenAI. So on that, they made the announcement. They gave a couple of kind of pre-recorded demos on stage. They answered a few questions, and then they let some of the people that were in attendance for that event get hands-on with it. And they showcased what they've done with the new Bing. And I'm actually going to walk you through it. But they wanted to highlight at that event that they are looking to extend capabilities. And one of the ways that they were doing that was by natural language.
Mhm.
By taking the OpenAI and ChatGPT tools and rolling that into the Bing search, they were able to allow you to ask a question just like you would naturally if John and I were having a conversation and I wanted to learn more, to be able
Mhm.
to follow up and get a complete response. So having a chat experience in the search is a significant change. On top of that, there's a couple of different modes where you can go from strictly searching and asking questions to generating inspiration, being creative, and it also does some code-based things that are kind of cool as well. So they announced the new Bing, and I'll show you what it looks like. So if you go to bing.com/new, if you haven't signed up on the waiting list, you can go ahead and sign up. Once you clear the waiting list, you'll be granted access to the new Bing. But in the meantime, they have a placeholder page, again, bing.com/new. And from there, you kind of get an idea of what it looks like. So, for example, they have a couple of prompts already set up. So you can roll through, I need some help with my coding. Click on that,
Mhm.
and then it takes you into Bing search, and here you can see they're giving you an example of what the chat actually looks like. So as we're looking at this, it's generating, in this case, some code in the middle of the screen. The little chat icon in the upper left-hand corner indicates that this is Bing Chat. They've got some follow-up responses that are intelligently generated for you down along the bottom. And then off to the sidebar, they've got some recent things that you may have searched on, some popular things that you may have searched on, and then your traditional
Hmm.
search responses generated down below. But if you go up and there's a little, you can just scroll up to get to it, or you can click on the chat. It takes you into the chat conversation that you have with Bing. My questions and responses are in blue, and then Bing's are going to be on the left hand side in white. Down at the bottom, again, intelligently suggesting follow up questions based off of the content of the conversation that you're in. And then you have the ability to follow up with your own questions up to 2,000 characters. You also can pick a new topic and you can start right from there. So you can get into that once you've signed up for the new Bing experience. Again, bing.com/new, and then this will be kind of your landing page, depending on how you've set it up, whether you want the picture of the day or the news or whatever. I like it clean. I don't want any of that stuff. Just give me the prompt. It tells me 1,000 characters here to start, but if I click on chat, it'll give me more. So that's the primary
Mhm.
way to get started. But the secondary way, and the way that I think is much, much cooler, and as this starts to roll out more and more, I'm really looking forward to seeing all of the adoption on it, is to use the new Microsoft Edge with the new Bing experience. And that's actually what I'm using. So to use this, you're actually going to be working with Microsoft Edge in the dev channel. So it's currently only in the dev channel, but it should roll out, to other channels down the road. But if you go to MicrosoftEdgeInsider.com, you'll see Microsoft Edge Dev channel. You can download it from there. I'm on a Mac, so it automatically defaulted. But if you scroll down, you're going to see you can download this for a number of other platforms. Windows 10, Windows
Windows 8.
11. You can download this for Apple Intel devices, Apple Silicon devices, and there's a couple other operating systems that are supported as well. But once you install the new Edge, which is what I have here, you get the new Bing sidebar. I think Microsoft's also calling it Copilot. So in the upper right-hand corner, I've got the Bing chat icon. Hover over that, and the sidebar opens up. And this is where it gets to be really, really fun. With the sidebar, I can have that conversation while still on the page and doing the thing that I want to do. So I'll just open it up. responsively. The page fits in the window. But here's the page that I was on, and now I want to ask a follow-up question. And so I can go ahead and I can actually start chatting right from here with this page. One really cool feature, we'll demo this a little bit more in depth in a few minutes. Spoiler alert, it is contextually aware of the page that I'm on. So if I were to ask this chat on the sidebar over here a question, like summarize the page that I'm on, it will do that, which is really cool. If I
Mhm.
highlight something on this page, it will pull that into the chat, and then I can use that to search. I can use that to ask questions and follow up. It's contextually aware of the page that I'm on. I
Yeah,
think
it's
that's
got
really cool.
recommendations too
Yeah,
off
that
of what you
brings me to
highlighted.
insights. What's that, John?
Yeah, and it's got, recommendations off of what you highlighted, like, "Hey, what do you want me to do with this? You want
Yeah.
me to make it simpler? You want me to, explain it and give you more context?" Something like that.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. So just continuing in the sidebar, we'll do this 10,000-foot view. The other things that you can do are you can compose. I really
Mhm,
think this is really interesting. You can tell it, you can give it a prompt, write about something. You can tell it the tone, professional, casual, enthusiastic, informational, or funny. Then you can tell it the format that you want it to output, a paragraph, an email, a blog post. Just generate a list of ideas, and you can tell it the length, short, medium, or long. From there, it'll give you a preview down at the bottom, and it's super simple to copy that and then go and output that somewhere. So, like, for example, there might be something on this particular page that I think is important. I'll copy and paste it, or I'll jot it in. I'll tell it, give me something informational, create some ideas, medium format, and output that. Take that to my
mhm.
window, take that to my Notion notebook, and do whatever I need with it. So it is contextually aware of the page, and then the compose can kind of help you to start building that note process. And then the last thing here is the insights. Because it's contextually aware of the page, it can basically scrub through or crawl the page, look for things like keywords and phrases, look for related information to the thing that you're actually looking at. Provide some follow-up information that might be relevant to what you're doing. Give you some information about the site that you're on. Analytics for this site, analytics for this particular page. Like, this is the first time I've actually
Oh, wow,
seen
I
this.
haven't
This is
gone down
actually
that
really
far,
cool.
yeah.
Where's the traffic coming from here? Okay. And then you can give a thumbs up or a thumbs
Wow.
down whether you like that particular feature. But as you move through your browser experience, you'll see, like, all right, here I am on YouTube, and insights. It's telling me, all right, you're on YouTube. Here's some insights around this. Key phrases, OpenAI.
Mhm.
I use that in the title of the video. Microsoft Bing, again, use that in the title of the video. So it is aware of that. But I could, go over here to, um, let me show more. Let's actually just highlight this. I'm going to see it brought that in. All right. So what do you want me to do? Well, let's go in and expand on that a little bit. That's
Mhm.
my description for this particular YouTube video, but let's expand on that a little bit and let's see. Um,
So it pulled out the keyword Prometheus. I'm gonna tell you more about that portion.
mentioning OpenAI, GPT, ChatGPT, Prometheus, which is Microsoft's proprietary um,
Mhm.
addition to ChatGPT that they've rolled into this. Um, mentioning the sidebar allows you to chat with their model off to the side, and then it jumped pretty quickly, but it even included some, in this case, some news articles that are associated with this. So that's kind of the overview of getting started with it. Bing.com/new is where you kickstart it. Be sure to go over to the Microsoft Insider or Microsoft Edge Insider, download the Edge Dev build, and then you'll get the sidebar. You do need to sign up though at the new Bing. There will be a wait list. I cleared the wait
Mhm.
list in a day. Jonathan, it took you week and a half to clear
Yeah,
the
it was
wait
like a
list.
week and a half to do it. I think did you go through and do all, like, the setting the defaults and everything right off the bat?
So when they announced the wait list, I was refreshing the screen, and then as soon as the wait
Mhm.
list popped up, I signed up on it. It gave a couple of prompts, and it said, install the Edge Dev build, log in on your
Mhm.
mobile device, set Edge as your default search experience. I did 2 of the 3. I did not set Edge as the default search on my device, but I did do the other 2, and I cleared the wait list about a day and a half. So,
Okay.
I was pretty
Yeah.
fortunate. I got in on Wednesday the 8th, I believe.
Yeah, it took me about a week and a half, I think. I went through and I did like the mobile app. I installed that and got that going. I already had Edge as my default, but I didn't run the little Microsoft defaults thing. After about a week, I got, really antsy about it. So I went on my Windows laptop and ran the defaults application. And then on my Mac desktop, I installed their little Bing wallpaper application as well. And then it was like the next day it came in. So I don't know if that was what triggered it, by going through all of their steps to get like earlier access, but I'm glad I got in. I've been doing Chat GPT for about a month and a half, 2 months. Like it was like right at the end of the year, I kind of got into it. I think you also had, a head start on me for that by a couple weeks. You've been doing a lot more with like generative AI. We've been DMing for weeks about it. Like you've been like really down a rabbit hole with it. Um, but I think like my biggest like issue I think I had with Chat GPT is just that it's like kind of out of the way, right? You've got to like I pinned a tab to Chat GPT and I was like having to remember consciously to go to it to have a conversation. And what I really like about this Bing experience is that, especially with the sidebar coming out from the side, is that it's just like in the flow of work a lot more.
Mhm.
It's almost like with Siri. I just like forget that it's there because it's so behind the scenes. But with this, like I really like that they put a big icon for Bing because you know that it's there and you can just leave it open all the time. And then like the fact that it like offers suggestions and things in the side, I think is really, really helpful. Um my other like favorite thing about this is just that it has references. With Chat GPT, it's like I like the answers and it seems like it makes sense, but it's also confidently wrong in a lot of cases. With this one, it may be just as wrong, but at least it has sources, so I can like click on it to kind of drill deeper down.
Yeah.
One example of this was I was searching yesterday in Bing. I was asking it to help me write some KQL for SharePoint because I was like, well, I want to try to figure out, can I surface stream videos from another SharePoint site? And to do that, you need a custom query, and it was writing those custom queries, but I had no idea like if it would work or not. But what's nice is you could scroll over all of its little references, and then that jumped me to a bunch of SharePoint blog posts, like from SharePoint Maven and places like that, so I could like research a little bit more about like what topic that blog was referencing, because they pulled something out of context. It might not be totally correct, but it at least got me to like the right place a little bit. Yeah, and you're showing that on screen right now. It puts it at the bottom, the little like footers for where that information came from, which is really cool.
Yeah, like, even inline, like, I can go here, I can see there's an inline reference and just hover over it, and it gives you the
Mhm.
website that it
And it
actually pulled
highlights
out.
that whole phrase.
Yeah, yep, and then down at the bottom, it puts all of your resources together in one area, and that's that's where I
Mhm.
really think that beyond the natural language, the inline linking is where it really goes to the next level of search because now it's consolidating resources for me into one response. It gives
Yeah.
me a footnote that I can follow up on to verify that information. And then at the bottom, I can very quickly see at a glance some of the sources. So if I know the website name, I know, okay, this is more likely to be an authoritative response. Now, we're talking about this, but this is a technology that's very much in its infancy. This has only been out
Mhm.
for about 2 weeks now. And ChatGPT is also a technology that's very, very young. So they need time to mature. you will
Mhm.
get responses here that are not exactly correct. You will see, and somebody in my video actually mentioned this. It said something about in private mode. That's not exclusive to the Bing sidebar. Private mode is actually part of the browser itself, and so there was
Mhm.
a it got confused and it included that as part of the response. So don't take everything at face value because it it's still learning. They're still training the model. They're still adjusting the model, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But
Mhm.
now, depending on what you're doing, you've got a reference to follow up on to verify that result. So it's a great starting point. I wouldn't
Yeah.
write a book with it. I mean, some people are, and they're publishing those on like Amazon. I wouldn't
Yeah,
write
I've
a
heard that, like, Kindle store has been just flooded with, like, AI generated books in the
yeah,
past month since this came out.
but it's a great start. It gets you started in your conversation. So for me, this is the starting point, but I think we wanted to go through some of the things that you could do with it, whether you're just in the chat experience or whether you're using the sidebar Copilot in order to work with it. So
Mhm.
there's a couple things we want to point out. Over the last week, Microsoft has restricted the number of prompts that you can have per conversation, and then the number of conversations that you can have on a daily basis.
Mhm.
Much like ChatGPT, as soon as people got through the waiting list, they really started to push this technology to see what it was capable of. And the more people that use it, the more queries that they're running, the longer the conversations are, it
Mhm.
has an impact on the service. There was a reporter for the New York Times that had a 2-hour conversation with the new Bing, and that was front page news on the New York Times. And there was some interesting things that happened with that conversation. So there are some guardrails that have been put in place on it right now.
Mhm.
So they have upped it to 6 prompts within a conversation. So this would count as one. This down here would count as two, and that's per conversation before you're going to have to start a new conversation. The other thing is
Yeah.
they've,
Clicking
as
on
of
that little
today,
broom icon,
Friday the
basically.
24th, they've upped the limit to 100 conversations per day. So that's a big jump. Now, for those of you that are coming from ChatGPT, we have the ability to go in, start a new chat at the top, and then you can see your
Mhm.
historical chats along the side. We don't have that in Bing. So the new Bing doesn't support um, capturing a conversation and then returning to it later. Microsoft said that that's something that they're working on. They just don't have it rolled out right now. So those are a
Mhm.
couple of limitations that you'll run into early on. But with that in mind, let's dive into a couple of use cases that I find that really makes this way more powerful than
Mhm.
a traditional search. And just to kind of showcase that, I'm actually going to head back just to the main search. So, like here, you see it preloaded Bing AI, and so this is what the traditional search would actually look like. It's telling me it's got about 73 million results, and then they're featuring some news at the top. You scroll down, and then you start seeing the search results, traditional search results. Well, with
Mhm.
traditional search results, you have to drill down into the thing in order to see what's there. You have to put the manual effort into following that up. So ZDNet wrote an article how they integrated Chat GPT style tech into Bing search, um, published today. But like I had to follow up that search prompt in order to get to that information. And so I read that article, got to file it away, make a note, do something with it, then come back to search to say, okay, that's good. Let me follow up and get another reference. And so again, drill down into the next thing and then go through, parse through that information, file it away, do my notes, whatever I want, head back to the search. And so like that's what we traditionally do. And that's just from if you're using the Bing search engine. I'm going to pick on Google a little bit. Let's go over to Google and let's say I do the same thing. So I come over here, say I want to see Bing AI. All right, so it's going to pull up some similar results. So it's actually pulling up 256 million results. It's still giving me some top stories along the top. And then I have basically similar search results, similar process. Drill down into it to see what's there, depending on what you search for.
Mhm.
Sometimes, though, you might go in and you might search for, say, I'm searching for like a restaurant. So it's going to give me like that prompt at the top, but sprinkled throughout here, you might have ads. The first 4 or 5 results might be ads. And so you have to look very carefully off to the side. Is this an ad or is this the thing that I actually want? I did
Mhm.
the restaurant example specifically because I saw this thing earlier today I thought was really interesting. Someone created an ad for a restaurant, but they weren't the actual restaurant. They were inserting themselves as the man in the middle between the restaurant. If you went down the page, the actual restaurant site was there. But because the ad was the first result, if you clicked on it, you could order from that restaurant. You could enter in your credit card information, and all they were doing was putting a charge on top of what the restaurant charged, and then they were
Yeah.
sending the same order to the restaurant
Like
with
a finder's fee.
a whole thread on Twitter around this. And I'm like, oh, so the
Wow.
scammers have figured out they can insert themselves as a man in the middle, upcharge, or just, capture your financial information, and then uh, you may or may not get your food. The restaurant may or may not get your order. I'm sure Google's going to fix that.
Wow.
But like I've noticed in searching and doing research that like there's a ton of ad results that are popping up at the top, and so it gets harder and harder to differentiate between what's an ad and like what's the thing that I'm actually searching for. Now, I'm not saying Microsoft's innocent of this. Like they both make money off of ad revenue. Google makes a significant amount of money off of ad revenue. Microsoft makes a not insignificant amount of money off of it, but it's nowhere near what Google does. So
Mhm.
I'll stop picking on Google now. Going back to the Bing search experience, when we start running that search, we can pivot to the chat experience. And so I'll show you an actual example of how I would use this. So let's say I am working on Microsoft's Power Platform. All right,
Mhm.
let's say I'm developing an app using Power Apps, and I need to look up uh, um, what's the word for it? I'm losing my thought here. I need to look up a formula for the formula bar. So like I want to insert a button and I wanted to do something. I use this page heavily, and there's a filter by title, and I can like manually browse through it. I can do like a control F and find the thing that I'm looking for, and I can browse through it. But the content is on this page, but sometimes Microsoft has content that's on a blog post, or they have content that's at learn.microsoft.com, or they have a couple other places where not only are they telling me about this formula, but they've got maybe some examples and some use case for it beyond what I might find on this particular page. So, what I really like about the new Bing is that I can go in and I can say, okay, Power Apps formula reference. I'm going to say, take me to chat on that. Now, if I do the traditional search, there it is. There's the page that I was just on, and there's a couple of variations, but I can just say chat. Power Apps formula reference. All right, so it summarizes that page for me. It summarizes that information, which is really cool. And it gives me
Mhm.
the inline links like we talked about. So here we can see this is going to take me to learn.microsoft.com, Power Apps Maker, Canvas apps. I know that website because I visit it all the time, so I can say that information is probably valid. And if I go down here and look at the results, most of this is actually coming from Microsoft. So it's giving me kind of a summary off of that. So here's where it gets to be really cool. I can go in and say, tell me about the Power Apps filter formula. And notice it was trying to like autocomplete my words. So I can just hit tab and it'll finish out the word for me. I don't have to type everything. That can be a
Mm.
little annoying, but it's also really fun because it makes things a lot quicker to type. All right. So tell me about the Power Apps filter formula. So it's searching for information because it's a search service. We're going to give it a minute. I'm not going to have it stop responding. Now it's starting to summarize. You see, it's already starting to put some links in there, and it's already given me the syntax. Like I didn't have to go to the article and skim through in order to find that. It's already given me the syntax for that. All right, so that's pretty cool. It dropped an example in line in the form of a conversation, but I have the page that I can follow up on right here. So this was one of the things that it listed. Somebody's talking about the filter and search functions, and they have a whole bunch of examples. That's pretty
Hmm.
cool. And then if I hover over this one, that's filter, search, lookup functions, and that's
Yeah,
the
from
page that I
Microsoft.
started on just a minute ago. So the takeaway here is with the conversation, you can ask a follow-up question. So you can have it drill down a little bit deeper. Before they put the limit on this, you could have this drill down like multiple levels. Like I know we just had a question about Chat GPT. In Chat GPT, like I've got some conversations that just go on and on and on because I'm drilling down, down, down. Like I've done
Hmm.
the Power Platform filters, and I'll pull that up and show that in a moment. But I had a
You
conversation,
have so many chats, dude.
so many,
Same. I
but like
clean mine up all the time. I've only got like 3.
no, I leave them out there. I've copied them over into notebooks, but like I'll start out with something,
Yeah.
ask a follow-up question, and then just kind of keep drilling down on that particular topic.
Hmm.
All right,
Do you
so
rename your chats?
yeah, I do.
You do? Yeah.
I use the AI generated name in some cases, but
Yeah.
when they start getting very similar, I'll rename it to something specific.
Yeah.
All right, so what's continuing on this? All right, the ability to ask a follow-up question. Here is where it gets to be really interesting. I can not only ask it a follow-up question, but I can use the intelligent responses down at the bottom to follow up a little bit more. So it's saying, well, "Do you want to see an example?" That'd be actually really helpful beyond what you have
Mhm.
there. What's the difference between filter and search? And then, can I filter by multiple criteria? Those I think are pretty common questions. And being that I've done Power Apps training and I've led that for a lot of end users. Those are three very common questions that I get from end users. All right, so show me an example of the filter function. All right, now while this generates, I'm on my third prompt. So I'm running out of prompts for this particular conversation, but I'm asking
Mhm.
it to give me an example. So it's saying create a text input box, filter, and so here it's saying filter employee details where the filter text box equals text for the title. So it gave a specific one, and this one it's telling us this is going to filter a gallery by matching the text input in the title field with an employee record. So if you use Power Apps and you're familiar with galleries, you know what that does. But again, you need to have some base knowledge of that thing. You're not going to become a Power Apps guru overnight, but this is definitely going to get you started on that. Now, the other thing that I want to show based off of this is I asked it to show me an example and it did this employee details, but that doesn't exactly apply to maybe my criteria. So I'll go in here and say, I have a table with columns of coffee, beverage, name, price, quantity, um, and then um, hot or cold. Create a table with 20 items and we'll see what this does.
See, and I think that's where I run into like my own limitations of trying to adapt to this new technology is that like you only used what like 80 characters out of 2000, and like they made the search box so big that really it's about prompt engineering at this point, you know? I think in terms of search terms, right? I want to do like a semantic search with like plus and try to keep it like as concise as possible in like a single line. But I find that like you get better results if you give it a lot of context, in order to like kind of untangle what you're really looking for. And that really helps a lot with those 6 limit back and forth that you have, is if you give it more to work with for each of those, 1 to 6 questions, then you get better results before you run out of the 6 and you have to start the conversation again, you know?
And that's and to your point, like the limit of 6 forces you to be concise. Microsoft's talked about opening that up a little bit. In fact, there was a conversation on Twitter with one of the executives over this from Microsoft, where they were talking about trying to figure out how to make the longer conversations
Mhm.
work, because it is contextually aware of everything that we've talked about previously in the conversation. But
Yeah.
prompt engineering is a big thing right now. Everybody's like, uh, they've got their do anything models, and here's 2,000 keywords to make it break its rules and do X, Y, and Z. But learning how to talk to it, it is a little bit of kind of like learning a foreign language. And through experimentation, you kind of figure out like what to do. In this particular example, I said create a table with some sample data, and you see it didn't quite give me 20 items, and it did not give me the filter example. It kind of cut that short. So I know I need to follow up and see um, if uh, if it'll actually give me what I'm looking for. But um, my advice would be, um, when you reach the end of the limit, you can go back to the point of the conversation where you were starting to get the answers that you want. You can
Mhm.
open Bing in a new tab and then copy and paste in the new tab from what you were just on. You won't have the context of anything prior to that, but now you've got the starting point, and then you can build off of that in a new conversation.
Mhm.
It's a bit of a workaround at this point, but it gets you started, and hopefully in the future, they'll open it up and you'll have more prompts and you'll have more of that contextual flowing, conversation. But I had to ask it to give me an example. So here it's saying filter coffee drinks where the price is greater than 4, and it gave
Mhm.
me an output and showed me what it would expect uh, receive from that, or filter where the coffee drinks are just hot from the table up top, and it's giving you some results. The neat thing about this is you can take some of this, copy and paste it in the formula bar in Power Apps, and you can
Mhm.
test it with your actual data. And then if it doesn't work, you can copy and paste that back into the conversation and say, hey, this didn't work, or this is the error message I've got, and you can use that to kind of debug and troubleshoot a little bit. Um, Again, you need some base foundation with these tools to do this, but that's just a couple of examples of how powerful this is. We started off with a very simple search query, Power Apps formula reference. From there, tell me more about it. It summarized it, gave me some links, and gave me an example. Then I said, show me another example. So now I have a second example to compare to, whereas this one is like 10,000-foot view, high level. This one actually gives me details. This is the name of a table. This is the thing that it's filtering on top of. From
Mhm.
there, we were able to pivot, say, all right, create an example close to my data or the thing that I'm doing. It created dummy data for me. I could copy and paste this into a table and use this in for an Excel workbook, use this in Dataverse, use this in a SharePoint list, and now I can generate dummy data with this thing. Think about the amount of time that's going to save you, like when you're building something. And
Mhm.
then I can take it and say, show me examples specific to my data or the dummy data that I'm feeding into it. And then let me just go back. I'm going to see if I can hit the limit here. Well, it might actually, that might be my sixth.
Yeah, I think that's number
That would be
6.
my sixth. So once this one
Yeah, we'll
generates,
show what happens whenever you run out.
yeah, but once this one generates, then it'll tell me I need to start the conversation over. But I can copy all of this information, take it to my notes, do whatever documentation around that I need. And I think when we were putting the description together for this, this is the revolution of search, because I'm not manually going from website to website processing it all myself, putting it in a document, bringing something else in, comparing it, and then building it out. It's
Mhm.
basically turned into my personal research assistant, and it's doing a lot of that work for me. So,
Yeah,
um,
it kinda replaces that control F that you have to do because, like, in order to find those examples, you land on the page for the search result, but then now you've gotta search within the page itself to find what you really needed,
yeah,
you know? And, like, it takes a lot of that processing overhead out because, it surfaces up, like, just the section that's relevant, you know? Um, there's just a lot less hunting that you have to do, you
yep,
know?
yeah, and like the other thing about that that I think that is kind of flying under the radar is the ability to cross-reference or pivot within the search and still have it aware of what you've talked about previously. So, like,
Mhm,
we're still talking about Power Apps, we're still talking about the filter function, but now we're filtering and search function. So we got two functions that we're talking about here. Um, and it's contextually aware of what we talked about prior to that. So if I wanted to, I could try to say, um, and I'm going to hit the limit. Oh, actually, no. Look, it did it already. Right here, search coffee drinks, latte, and then coffee beverage. So it because I pivoted to that table example halfway through, and then
mhm.
we cross-referenced another function, it went ahead and showed me that function in the context of the conversation that we're having. I don't know about you, but
Yeah,
like
that's
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 amazing.
so cool.
That is so amazing. So those are kind of the I think the big things about using the chat-based experience for the search is the ability to start off with a simple reference, get inline links
Mhm.
and references, intelligent follow-ups are automatically generated, the ability to ask follow-up questions, the ability to ask for sample data to apply to make it real world, and then the ability to extend, pivot, or cross-reference within the query that you're running. All of those things are really, I think, what's going to take this way beyond anything we could have imagined.
Mhm. Yeah, to shift gears a little bit, I think it would be really cool to talk about some more of that, like, contextually awareness
Mhm.
of it, like, the aware of what page you're on. And I wanted to show my screen real quick and talk a little bit about a common question that I've heard with people, especially when they're, like, wanting to get started with the new Bing and, like, they're setting it up or signing up for it for the first time, is, you have to use a personal Microsoft account to sign up for Bing. And I did that. I used, like, my iCloud account, which is my personal Microsoft account, but you can actually link it to your, like, organizational or school account. And that's through, like, the Bing rewards. Basically, it, like, promotes up so that whenever you do searches, you get, like, points for the Bing rewards. So to demonstrate that here, whenever I open up, I'm logged in as, like, Megan Bowen, right? But whenever I open up Bing, it says, well, you got to join the wait list. It doesn't know about my personal Microsoft account. So what you can do is you can hit sign in because I've already got access with my personal account. So I'm just going to put that in, and then it will ask me to log in. So I'll do the passwordless login right there. And then because I logged in with that now, it's using my personal, but alongside of my Office 365. So now it's contextually aware of what I'm doing in Contoso, but with this awesome chat functionality as well. So one thing that I've seen that's really cool about this is let's do one of these. Let me open up one of these videos here that has a transcript. Let me see if I can find one that actually has a transcript associated with it. These ones don't, but I've got another one over here. So this is like a video that I made a while back about how to wear a Meta Quest headset. And the video itself is like 10 minutes long or so. And I'm using the new stream on SharePoint to transcribe this video, and because that text is available to me, I can ask Bing, like, summarize what this video is. Um, summarize this video I have open. Give me 5 key takeaways. So I can do that. It will look at the page, and because there's a transcript available, it should read that transcript and basically summarize the video for me. Oh, now it's not working. So now it's just telling me, like, about a video summary and, like, what those are. Dang it, this was working the other day. That did not help, Sydney.
Retry for
I
this
don't
page only.
Yeah, let's try this. Retry for this page only. So it's gonna try to look at the page and come up with a summary without searching the web. I need online resources. Okay, well, dang it, that kind of failed. Well, let's clear that. Why don't we try doing it? I wonder if Megan has like a Word document that she
So
could
can
feed
you
into
download
it.
the transcript and run it through the stream VTT scrubber?
We might be able to do that. Yeah, let's try downloading. So I've got the VTT file right here. And if I open that up on my Mac, there's the VTT. If I drag it onto Edge as a new tab, I'm just going to go ahead and leave all the timestamps in here. And then I'm going to do this generate page takeaways. So there's like a recommended thing that I can do. Let's see if it works. Okay. So yeah, it's pulling this stuff out, which it's saying, hey, here's some summary takeaways. It gave me what, 4 of them about like what the buttons on the Meta Quest are, how the trigger button is used to select things in VR, the grip button, like that's important to use. You have to adjust the head straps. You also need to pair the controllers. Um, Stuff like that. So it did pull that out, even though I've got all these timestamps. It just kind of ignored all of those, which is pretty cool. Um, so yeah, that worked with that. I'm gonna see if I've got some like other stuff from Contoso. So here's pricing guidelines, and this is like how big of a document? 4 pages. So I can like summarize this page. And we'll see like if it reads through this this Word document. It might have like a connection issue or something. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I think I might have a problem. So if you're having trouble with it not understanding what you're talking about, then what you've got to do is go into the app settings. So I forgot to do that. You can go into the app settings, clicking the little dot, 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 and then page context. I had that turned off. So turn that on, and then I'll just like refresh this. We'll start a new topic. And then now let's see if it works. I'm too lazy to read this Word document. Give me an executive summary. Oh, see, it's still not wanting to read off the page. We'll see if it offers to do the retry for this page. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I did read it. So here's a possible executive summary where it's providing pricing guidelines for Contoso's website redesign project. The Contoso team is going to conduct a SWOT analysis. The project will require part-time strategy consulting. It will cost $367,000. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, there's that anticipated cost, $367,000. And yeah, it took like this 4 pages and condensed it down into like a paragraph
What's
off of a
interesting
Word
is that
document.
it searched for executive summary so that it had
Yeah,
something to base its response around.
it knew how to
Because it's
structure it.
broad,
Yeah.
and then it summarized the information on the page to meet the results of that particular prompt.
Mhm. Yeah, that's craziness. Now, another thing that I can do is let's go into Outlook for web and get into Megan's email here and see if she's got an email from like Nestor. So there's Nestor left a comment. Um, I want to find an email where it's like somebody's like talking to me. There we go. So can you please send that Excel file, blah blah blah, from Nestor? Not interested. So I can go to compose and I can be like, write a reply to Nestor in a casual way as an email short. And I want to see like, does it know about that whenever I generate the draft? There we go. Yeah. Yeah. So
So
there's a reply to Nestor.
we should also caution at this point, it's not necessarily recommended that you put private or sensitive information into this because it is
Yes.
a
Yeah.
training model and it is still learning. There are no enterprise agreements in place to keep your
Hmm.
data, too private or whatever. So use discretion when using this. Don't put sensitive information like your corporate buyout plans for this thing. Um,
Hmm.
but for some general purpose stuff, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah. And so I can take this, I hit reply to Nestor, my fake user, hit add to site, and it pops it in there like that. So then I can just change this to like Megan and do
I
that.
wasn't
Now,
expecting little touches like that, like the add to site to have it go to the cursor on the site and like
yeah,
input.
like where
I
it's
wasn't
at.
expecting that at all, but I'm really glad Microsoft did that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And like, it doesn't know about the Excel file, right? So this kind of gets into like my wish list or my predictions. What I see is going to probably happen around that May timeframe that Jeff Teeper was talking about is I think we'll see this type of technology like write a reply to Nestor, but I think it will be put into OA itself, into Outlook for web access. Because then, imagine if it was a corporate version of chat, Bing chat, so that you could say, hey, write me a response, and it would give you that, but it would know that Nestor was talking about an Excel file from a meeting they had together that with a specific customer, right? So it would like if it could look at Megan's calendar, find the meetings that her and Nestor were in together with like whatever client they're talking about, and that there was a Excel file that was like put into the chat for the team meeting. You could grab that information, you could stitch it, write a reply that's more contextually aware, and maybe attach that file. And it feels like we're getting, we're baby stepping there, because if you go back like to this feed, this is more of like an intelligent feed on office.com now. If you go to my content, then you can go to meetings, and well, dang it, it doesn't have any meetings. But in the meetings in my normal corporate account, you'll see all of your historical meetings, who they were with, and it gives you actually little boxes on the screen, like little buttons of the recording for the meeting, the attachments that were in the chat, the attendee list, like all of that stuff is captured and associated with that meeting. So I think what's going to happen in the near term is I think they're going to take that information that gets, Outlook gets aware of that. And then now, whenever you're communicating back and forth, it would be able to basically reference that stuff that the Office graph knows about, so that it's not just kind of a dumb reply where Megan's not really giving Nestor what he wanted. In the future, if this is like tied to the Office 365 account, I think it would be able to surface up some suggested files so that it's like, hey, you were in these meetings, there's 3 Excel files that you share with Nestor, is it one of these? And you could say yeah, and it would just attach it. I think that's probably what we're going to end up seeing out of this. But But yeah, certainly you want to be careful, as you said, Andy, with like taking, sensitive information, trying to write something in something you're logged into with your consumer account and then shoving it back into Outlook. You definitely don't want to do that with anything proprietary. But I think it's a preview of probably what's to come, that we'll see this probably built into the ribbon in a lot of these tools, you know?
Yeah. So to that point, let's just expand on coming into the other tools just a little bit. I got a couple things that
Mhm,
I just want to point out from Microsoft's end. So John mentioned this a few times, but Microsoft has already announced that they are going to extend this partnership with OpenAI. We're going to see more of this technology rolled into the entire Microsoft platform, everything from Azure to the Power Platform to Microsoft 365. And I imagine it's even going to trickle down into Windows and other apps and services that they support. So
mhm,
right now, Microsoft has a really big push for Microsoft Teams Premium, and they've announced a lot of features previous to the release of the new Bing, but they have a blog article that was recently released where they talk about using AI powered technology inside of Microsoft Teams. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of this. It is powered by OpenAI, so GPT 3.5. But basically, in Teams Premium, they are doing things like intelligent meeting recap, and that's going to be powered by AI. And in this case, they're going to extend that into OpenAI. So John was talking
mhm.
about the meeting recap a minute ago. The intelligent meeting recap that they are touting is going to have suggested notes based off of the conversation that was had during that meeting, suggested task with links to specific people that were mentioned as part of that meeting. You can go and search mentions in your transcript um, after the meeting. Other things that they're doing, AI generated chapters for the meeting. So based off of
Mhm.
what you were displaying and the content of it, they're creating a video and
And
they're
this
creating
is
chapters.
actually available today and is not a premium feature. If you use PowerPoint Live, it will automatically add chapters to your videos. I've seen that in my regular production environment.
Yeah, I think this is extending though even beyond. They're mentioning PowerPoint Live here, but I feel like I read that they were going to extend this even when you were like sharing like a screen, marking
Yeah, it does
chapters.
say the intelligent recap will automatically generate chapters based off the transcript. So that's
Yeah,
where it gets into premium world, is if
yeah,
you have an intelligent recap, it's going to be able to see what the natural flow of the meeting was
yeah.
so that it can generate chapters because the topic shifted.
They also talk in this particular article personalized timeline markers. So you go back and you review that meeting, and they have personal timeline markers. Call out when you joined and left the meeting, so you can quickly click and get back to what you may have missed out on in that.
That's so cool.
Speaker timeline markers to show you who spoke during the meeting, so you can jump to those certain places within the meeting. Updates to the live transcriptions and captions, translating between 40 spoken languages. They've talked about rolling out some of that. And then there's a whole plethora of additional Teams Premium features, but those are kind of a few of the things I just wanted to highlight where they had previously started down this, and I think that they're going to be using some of the OpenAI integration for this moving forward.
Mhm,
Now, between you and us, it is possible to take a transcript from a meeting and then summarize that and then use that as your bullet points for the meeting. For example,
mhm.
download the transcript, the VTT file, and then use the Bing
Yeah,
sidebar.
like we
It's
did
not
in the
going to be the
demo.
level that they're building in here, which is not the workaround. This is very, very specialized, but it is possible to do like some
Mhm.
transcript summarization. And we showed you how to do that a moment ago. But this is one of
Yeah.
the first products that they are touting this integration. John mentioned the Outlook thing. I don't have the article pulled up, but Microsoft said that in March of 2023, they are planning on implementing OpenAI into Outlook, Word, and PowerPoint.
Nice.
So I'm really curious to see where that's going to go. I know in the PowerPoint world, let me pull this up real quick.
Yeah, and back to that intelligent recap, I think that's one of those things where, yeah, you could work around it by like downloading the VTT, asking for a summary, things like that. But when you get more of the like native functionality, I think what we're going to see is like it's going to be more aware of like who was speaking at what time, because the transcript when you download that, I don't know necessarily that it marks who said what thing in the VTT, because it's just time stamped instead. But inside of the Teams meeting, it is aware of who was speaking at what point. So I think those
Mhm.
summaries are probably going to be a little bit more like, oh, Andy started out with a summary about this. John asked this question, and here's what the answer was. I think it's going to know that more inside of the, walled garden of the Microsoft Teams meeting. Also, I think because like there are actual people associated with this meeting, and it knows who they are, and it has like their Active Directory account, their UPN. I think ultimately what'll happen is it would be able to even take out like action items, right? I've done some, playing around with transcripts of fake meetings and say, hey, summarize this, pull out the action items. And it gives you like Chat GPT will give you like a bulleted list in text of like, oh, Andy said he was going to do this on next Thursday. John said he was going to do this thing and follow up on Tuesday. And it gives you that. But when you do it inside of Microsoft, like inside a premium, I think they'll have the power, the ability to probably assign those action items to people, because it knows that when it mentions Andy said he was going to do something, it's Andy Honeycutt. And, we happen to have Microsoft To Do or Planner that we could like properly assign something and notify and put a due date on it. I think that's the power of like having it intelligence inside of Teams Premium instead of like having to do workarounds that require you to like manually download something, go to another tool, process it there. You know, that's just my 2 cents about like, yeah, premium's extra, but I think you're going to have a lot more seamless experience because of that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
So with the other apps, just to point out a couple of things, Microsoft announced and released Designer end of
hmm
last year. So this is designer.microsoft.com. It lets you start by describing what you want to create. And then from there, it intelligently generates things. This is powered by OpenAI's DALI. I think it's DALI 2. So I can,
yeah,
with natural language, tell it something and then have it start building out and creating professional looking designs. So that's powered by OpenAI. What I think we'll start to see more and more in PowerPoint is the integration of something like that, where I can go into PowerPoint and say, I need to create a PowerPoint presentation around this topic. Um, Help me build a professional presentation. And
hmm
they're going to extend the designer tool, which is already pretty intelligent and it's
yeah,
gotten
the
better and
slide
better over
designer.
the years to give me a look and feel for my presentation so that I can concentrate on the content, maybe have that Bing search OpenAI experience help me to fill in the blanks on that content, do my
hmm
research, provide references and footnotes, and help me to build out my presentation. So I would expect that we're going to see an expansion on Designer, maybe some capabilities from Microsoft Designer starting to roll into to PowerPoint. And I would also anticipate that we're going to see something similar inside of Microsoft Word. So as I go into Word and I want to start drafting a document, rather than being working with just a blank page, maybe I
hmm
can have Bing or I can have OpenAI step in and help me to start the composition by inspiring me with a give me 10 bullet points for this particular topic and help me generate some ideas. for this thing, and then use that as a
Yeah.
basis for maybe building out my outline and then building out the rest of the document. So whether they do it strictly through the sidebar, I think in an office they're probably going to bring it in into the app itself. Here they're
Yeah.
rolling in the designer preview where you can create um, different types of designs for the work that you're doing. I think they're
Mhm.
also going to start working when you go in and you need to do search inside of the document. The search results are going to extend to the new Bing. The search
Yeah.
results are going to
Because
extend
right
to
now,
AI.
if you have an empty Word document right now, it's just basically gonna give you like a lorem ipsum type of text, like just random stuff. I
Yeah.
could see in the future this designer when you say, "Oh, I want like this article in the bottom corner," then I think the next step is it's gonna be a prompt that says, "Well, what's your article about?" And then I think it would give you sample text that's like actually relevant. Um, this is kind of an obscure reference or a throwback, but you remember Sway?
Hmm.
Like, there was a feature in Sway. I mean, I think Sway still exists, but I haven't used it in years. Um, there was a feature in Sway where you could say like, "I need a report about like the moon landing," and it would generate an entire like slideshow type of report about the moon landing based off of like results. I think that's kind of like a like the world wasn't quite there yet type of feature, you know? Do you remember that when they like had it for like school reports and stuff? I could see that getting built into like Word and PowerPoint directly where it's like, "Hey, you know, or there was a feature, gosh, it was like 3 years ago, in Word that was like something to the effect of like, make this a slide deck, and it would take like a 8-page Word document, and it would generate a PowerPoint file that had like the key points as bullets. I don't know if you remember that feature. Yeah, export to PowerPoint. I could see that also being something that gets like actually enhanced, based off of it running that stuff through OpenAI to get way more context and how to summarize and how to shorten to bullets. Because right now, like what it did in my testing like 3 years ago is like the bullets were like full sentences, they
Mhm.
weren't condensed down and like summarized. But if you get to the point where it's like summarizing it with OpenAI, you could get like an actual relevant PowerPoint slide deck off of like a 6-page business case that you wrote in Word, you know?
So let's take that concept and let's show what we can do today with that with a Word document.
Mhm.
So let's say that I want to do a presentation or something, taking advantage of like the new Bing. So let's actually go to a clean prompt and um, let's say like 10 amazing titles for a. All right, so I'll start off the
Mhm.
search there. We'll go right into a conversation. All right,
And you get
so we're gonna
not
let
very good,
it
like,
compile
search
for us.
results for that because that's creative, It like, you're unless somebody wrote a blog article about that specific subject, you're gonna get kinda crappy results, But when you switch to chat, you get creative, generative, um, responses back.
All right, so it didn't give me 10. It only gave me 5. That could be a limit, but I kind of like this one. What you need to know about the new Bing powered by OpenAI. So
Mhm.
I'm going to tell it create an outline for that with say headings and subheadings, and I want to see what it outputs. And I'm asking specifically for headings and subheadings because if I bring that into a Word document and it's H1 and H2, then it makes it easy to export it to a PowerPoint.
Mm, yeah.
Now, I wanted to say, like, I'm not going to use this verbatim. I'm gonna in the real world, I'm gonna use this as a starting point. I'm gonna use this to kind of get some
Yeah, you wanna
inspiration and
rewrite
generate
it
some
in your
ideas.
own
I'm gonna go back
words.
and apply it to my specific use case. I'm gonna read
Yeah.
this information and not take it at face value. All right,
Mhm.
but this is just an example. So it's giving me headings and subheadings. I kind of like the way that this is structured. We'll pretend like I read everything that it has. So I'm actually going to take this information here, and then I'm going to head over to my Word document, and I'm going to bring that into my Word document. Now I
Well,
would go
and by the
through
way, if you were using the sidebar, you could have just added to site, you know?
exactly,
Yeah.
but using the sidebar, I'm limited with like the little window over there.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true.
so this six and one half dozen of another. All right, so I'm
Yeah.
just going to clean this up a little bit. So like I want these things here to be like
Oh, and it
H1.
retained the links. Did you see that? For all
Yes.
the references.
Yeah, so I just want these to be like H1s. And I know I could have did like a control select, but and be careful, it will follow a link if you click on
If you
it.
click on it.
All right. So now we've got that set up. And so let's just do these guys.
I lost your
So
bullets,
just
though.
doing H1, H2 because it should be able to interpret the difference between these, and I'll leave the last two without going to the H2 format. All right, so we created this. It doesn't look great now, but I just want to go and do the export to PowerPoint and let it create a
Mhm.
presentation based off of those bullet points, just to kind of showcase that like we started with a simple search query, we expanded, give me a title, this one looks good, help me build out an outline around this. Now we've got some creative ideas floating. Bring that into Word. If we format it the correct way in Word, it should be able to export and create a PowerPoint presentation. And then I got the basis of a presentation that I can start going back
Mhm.
and adding to. I can add my design elements to it. I can add the visual references to that. And then I don't have to do all the tedious work of slide. Here's heading number one and the subtopic. Slide. Here's heading number two. Like it's going to speed up
Mhm.
my workflow a little bit. I'll let
Well, and
that run.
it's almost giving you prompts, Andy, because, like, if you read what it says it doesn't give you the answer, it says, "Explain what large language models are.
Yeah.
Compare OpenAI to Bing." So, like, it's almost giving you, like, placeholders for your slide to then put in the real content. Oh, it didn't work.
All right. There you go. You got it on the second attempt. Oh, I kind of like this one.
That's kinda nice.
All right. So let it prepare the slides.
I like that animated GIF. It's like printing slides.
And then let's open it and see what it gave me. Introduction. Explain what being an OpenAI is. So now I've got the basis of a presentation, and it's easy for me to go in and clean this up and
Just
really
fill out those
customize this to what
bullets
I
with
want.
actual stuff, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was helpful because it helped me to just brainstorm. This is I kind of like the name of that. I would clean it up, but here's an outline. Okay, I think this is going to work. And then
Mhm.
now we know, okay, when we get here, explain what Prometheus is and how it integrates. So go and do my research on that. But I could also say, well, I need to learn more about Prometheus. And I can follow up with a prompt on that, get some
Mhm.
information, some reference points, decide on how I want to present that. But it's helping me just to organize my thoughts and get things going. What I hope we're going to see when we get this stuff integrated into Word, PowerPoint, and Outlook and the others is that I don't have to jump around as much between the different tools. But I can tell you, just over the last few months of using ChatGPT and this method, like I've really been able to get over the barrier of getting started. Like that's the
Yeah,
hardest thing,
that's the hardest thing is
just getting
getting
started.
started and looking at a blank canvas. And there's talk about, like, is this cheating? Is it, gonna ruin education, stuff like that. Like, from my perspective, it feels like what you're doing by adding these tools in is you're bringing research into the creative process,
Mhm.
right? Like the student, they got a structure, right? They got a structure with a blank empty PowerPoint, and now like, I guess they could go and they could take each of those bullets, shove them into the chat, and then get back verbatim. But like they're still not going to get a great grade if they, just copied that text in there, because like that's a crappy or that's a crappy PowerPoint, right? Like it needs to be well designed and summarized. So, for them to structure it in something that fits onto a slide, they're doing research, they're learning about it and restructuring what they've learned into something that's presentable. Like they're doing the work and they're learning about the topic. It's not, I think it's going to be fairly obvious the things that are like, low effort generation versus I use this as a vehicle to learn and present this stuff. Because also, the student has to get up, or you have to get up in a professional setting and talk to your slides. If you're just reading your slides, you're again not going to get a great grade. You're not going to impress anybody in your sales meeting. But if you know what is on the slides, if why does it matter, in my opinion, why, if AI helped you generate the content on the slide, if you know the content enough to present it well and still, get a good grade? I feel
When I was
like
in
it's an
college,
assistive technology, not replacing the activity of learning.
right.
So
When I was in college, I was my senior year, I was the TA for my advisor. I was helping with the entry level networking classes, grading the exercises, helping to write some of the tests and quizzes, and helping to develop some of the exercises for them. We had a project early on in the semester, and these were freshmen, but we had a project early on in the semester, and the project was go and research something about networking, some subtopic of networking, and just
mhm,
create a one-page paper on that. Cite your source, and you could not. I think the professor at the time didn't let them use Wikipedia, so all these responses came in and they were all over the place. And you could tell who was paraphrasing. They were using some large words for a freshman audience. You could kind of tell it
mhm,
was out of place. But this one article came across and it was talking about something called Metasploit. And I was the senior, and so I knew a lot about Metasploit because I was using it for cybersecurity because I was part of the cybersecurity team at my college, and we were in a cybersecurity competition, a nationwide competition. And so
mm,
I had just read that article about Metasploit um, within the last couple of weeks, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, he copy and pasted this. And so pulled it up and like right away, the whole thing verbatim, no reference, passed it off as his own. I'm like, no. So got a zero on that because you didn't follow the rules. You also didn't do your own work. Like that was just a blatant copy and paste. What we're talking about here is this serves as a starting point, and I've hopefully I've emphasized that enough as we move through this. I'm not going to just take everything that it says at face value. I'm going to follow up on this link to determine, what's this thing, and then I'm going to make my own thoughts around that, and then that's what I'm going to use. But this gets me over the hurdle of getting started. Now, the other thing that you mentioned that I think this technology is really going to do, and unfortunately Bing limits that capability, is the ability to use it to learn. Only have ability to
mhm,
have 6 prompts within a conversation limits my ability to deep dive into a topic. And one of the things we wanted to do was to compare with ChatGPT. So I'm going to go over to ChatGPT and a plethora of various conversations that I have going on over here. Say, for example, I'm an IT admin and I want to work with Microsoft PowerShell. I work with Microsoft Teams.
mhm,
I go through the graphical interface. But the more I work with that, the more I realize I really need to start learning more about PowerShell. I can copy and paste a little bit, but I really need to get down into it. So one of the things that I've really found helpful for ChatGPT is the ability to ask a question and then have it give me that topic and responses. So like going through here, act like a PowerShell terminal and teach me the basics of Microsoft Teams PowerShell module. So right away it tells me, here's how you install it. Here's the command to connect. Once you connect, these are some commandlets that you can use to retrieve in from PowerShell. So get team, new team, remove team. All right. I want to return a CSV file with a list of all teams and the corresponding channels actively using the Microsoft Teams wiki, because Microsoft's going to retire the wiki in Teams and they're going to start using OneNote. So, and it gives me a couple of examples, like you could use the get team and get channel commandlets and then use the where object, and then it formats that. Well, the cool thing is, as I'm going through this, I can say, well, can you just create a couple of examples of what that might look like what kind of output I should expect out of this?
Mhm.
And so it shows what the CSV file could look with that. And then I want to return a CSV file with all the teams and channels. So it through the comments, it tells me what every single commandlet in that script is going to do. So it
Oh,
can help
wow.
me understand the syntax and what is this going to do. First, you need to install the SharePoint PnP PowerShell
That's
module.
crazy.
This commandlet does that. And just looking at that, I'm like, okay, I'm installing dash module SharePoint PnP PowerShell online. So as I'm going through this, and I can open up a terminal on the side and I can go along and follow this in real time. And I can use this as the basis to kind of understand and get started with this. Show me some example data. And like my conversations are kind of full of some PowerShell examples like that, where I'm diving a little bit deep into this thing. I worked with PowerShell for a few years now. I'm not an expert by any means, but this is just going to help me to kind of dive deeper into that. Here's another example. So I needed to ask a question about the SharePoint managed property, and very quickly that runs into something with the KQL query.
This is what I was researching yesterday.
So you're
KQL and
familiar with the
managed
highlighted
properties.
content web part and the ability to do custom queries inside of it.
Mhm.
So I was researching based off of that, and I needed to find like a certain type of file, and I wanted to narrow it down, but the graphical interface wasn't getting me what I wanted. And through research, I came across the KQL image path, and so it was able to help me
Mhm.
to fill in some of the gaps on that, and I was able to get the I wanted in the highlighted content web part. So the point is, this can become a learn. Like I can
Mhm.
go through the primary topic, ask a follow up. Hey, show me an example of how to do this this thing. And tell me about SharePoint framework. I know what the SharePoint framework is, but I wanted to know what it knew about it. Show me some examples of some things that I can do with. Here's one for the Excel people out there. Explain the Excel XLOOKUP. Some of you are very familiar with VLOOKUP. Well, what's XLOOKUP and how does it actually compare to VLOOKUP? So gives me a summary of XLOOKUP. Go down,
Mhm.
hey, compare it to the VLOOKUP. Not only do I want you to give me a breakdown of, show me an example of each. Here's the XLOOKUP and here's the VLOOKUP, and I can see the syntax of both. And then I can say, hey, now that I've got the basis of that, create a sample table, just some sample data in there, and then show me with the sample table an XLOOKUP example and a VLOOKUP table using that exact sample data, so that it gives me some kind of like output. And
Mhm.
then I'm able to like to take that and apply it to what I'm actually working with my data in Excel. I could look up XLOOKUP on the web, but am I going to be able to like drop it into some sample data and like get the output
Mhm.
of that and like see that in real time and have it actually return results? Maybe
See, I
not.
think that's the key to, like, using these things safely within a corporate job is you're using sample data all over the place. Give me an example of this. Give me, like, don't don't feed it a bunch of actual team names from your corporate environment. Instead, say, hypothetically, how would I search for a bunch of teams? Give me some sample team names. And it gave you generic stuff like marketing and sales and stuff like that. Like, you know, you're not he's not like putting corporate data in here anywhere along the line. He's learning about something that applies to his job, with examples. Like that's no different than if he was hunting around the web doing this manually from page to page,
Yeah.
you know?
And here's another example. In Power Apps, we have this thing called a collection. A collection is a table that you can use in the Power App. You can use it when the app loads. You can create the table as the app's actually in the process of running. You could have a
Mhm,
button that creates the table, but it's a table. And so all I did was inputted this is my sample table right here. Write an
mhm,
expression to filter by the country with a text control. And so it created expression that I would potentially use for that in the Power App. But I know from experience I need to use distinct, especially if I'm going to try to go from like a country to a state, providence, or down even to like a city level. So I know I need to do that. So I told it, hey, with
mhm,
the collection, write the distinct function. But because I'm using the actual sample, the collection, it tells me just based off of the name of the collection, based off of the field country, where we're looking for country. And so it was able to generate something like this. Is an example of I start with something that maybe I already have. I start with a snippet of something that I'm already working with, and then I want to learn more about how to do this one thing with it. And now I'm able to drill down into that. I do this in a class for Power Apps for end users, but I wanted to see what the bot knew about it, and this is pretty accurate as to what we would expect from like a real world scenario. So like I've got it in Chat GT, I'm able to do things like that a little bit more freely than we can currently do that in Bing,
mhm.
partly because you're limited to 6 prompts now in Bing, and 100 a day, whereas with Chat GPT, once you're in, like, you can have prompts that
You
run,
can keep going, and you
50.
can come back tomorrow and
Yeah,
keep going,
that's
because you've got the chat is saved. Like, I wonder if Bing, like, one thing that would be nice for formatting is that sidebar. I think they should make it honestly like maybe like a Skype type of UI, where like maybe there's a back arrow at the top corner and you could go back and see like all of your chats and like drill into one, and then you're chatting with the bot on the sidebar. I could
mhm,
see that being like a pretty, UI that makes sense to my brain, that like, oh yeah, like have it almost look like a mobile chat application where you
yeah.
go up a level and you see all your chats. Um, yeah, I really hope they get to having the ability to like keep a chat thread and pick it up later, because yeah, like you go through these hypotheticals of, oh, act like this and teach me about PowerShell, or like you could be just wildly different throughout the day, and being able to kind of like change, change topics rapidly like that, but not lose the context, I think would be really powerful. That's something that Chat GPT definitely has a leg up on.
Yeah, and I find myself right now just going back and forth between the 2 for something a little simpler right now. Bing's been up and down over the last week because restrictions that rolled out at the end of last week. I know you and I were planning for the show when the restrictions went into place. And we're like, oh man,
Yeah.
don't use any of your prompts 24 hours prior to the
Yeah, it
uh,
was live, like, while we were planning the show a week ago that, like, all of a sudden the restrictions came in.
And
Yeah.
part of that was people stress testing the system. They wanted to see if they could get Bing to refer to itself as Sydney and, tell a bad story, or, express its undying love for whoever it was in a conversation with. And I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in the Dan prompts where like I could try to get it to
Yeah.
break a character. I'm more interested in it from the personal assistant. Help me to understand this, or why is this expression not working? Um, on
Yeah.
that same topic, there's a couple other things that from the Microsoft perspective we should mention. So they've talked about rolling this into Outlook and Word and PowerPoint here in the near future, but
Mhm.
throughout this conversation, I've mentioned the Power Platform a lot. I know I use it quite a bit, John. I don't think you use it as much,
Not as
but
much these days,
I
yeah.
do Power Platform quite a bit, and Microsoft's actually had AI integration in the Power Platform for quite a while. So for those of you who automate and you create flows to automate business processes, you have the ability to go in right now and describe your flow in natural language. I
Mhm.
want to, or when someone responds to a Microsoft Form survey, post a message in Microsoft Teams and send an email. Pretty straightforward. It's
Yeah.
going to suggest that when a response is submitted in forms, that you have multiple actions, and one of those is a Teams action, and one of those is an Outlook action. And if that is you need, you hit next, and it takes you into the editor, and then it starts helping you to build out that flow. All you had to do was tell it in natural language what you wanted to do, and it tries to find triggers that are used to start that particular workflow, and then actions that might correspond to that.
Mhm.
So that can get people over the barrier of getting started. You don't have to start with a template. You can start with, I need to do this, and it's going to go and intelligently find that for you. The other thing that Power Automate has done recently deals with formatting dates, formatting data. Um, when you work with Power Automate across UTC time codes quite a bit, and at first glance, for an end user, somebody who's new to this, they don't understand it. It's a date and time format that's format of foreign to them, and then UTC time, depending on your time zone, could be 5, 8, 10 hours time difference. So there's conversions that you have to run in there. So
Mhm.
what they've done is when you're in the process of building a flow and you're using an action, they have this new thing, format data by examples. And so you can say, this is what the data looks like now. This is what I want it to look like. All right. So it's year, month, day. I wanted to say the month. I wanted to have the date for that. And what it's going to do is suggest an expression that you can use, format, date, time, and it's going to tell you exactly what you would need. And you can copy that and you can input that in your action in the flow. So it's going to convert data intelligently, and all you have to do is give it a sample of what it looks like and tell it what you want it to output as, rather than trying to figure out how to do all of these crazy formulas on your own. Those things are in Power today, but they're powered by AI, and they've talked about some other things that they want to do with that, um, whether it's with the Power Automate desktop, Power Automate virtual agents. So that's just a couple of examples. I would expect that to get much more intelligent in the future.
Mhm.
Also, there's a description, create a cloud flow from, or create a cloud flow from a description, just an article from Microsoft where they actually break that down, describe it, and design it. And then from Power Apps, they have AI powered assistants to help you create your app using natural language. So use this input to describe what you want to happen in this app. Here's the cool thing: they find using OpenAI GPT-3. This article was released in 2021. So the Power Platform
Yeah.
has been working with this for about 2 years. So they've
Mhm.
got a head start. A lot of the other apps, they've already been integrating this into the Power Platform. We were talking about formulas a minute ago. Power FX formulas, the formula bar. Um, Simplifying and being able to ask a question and have it output the formula that you need to use built right into the app.
Mhm.
Then to push on the innovation. So that's an example of where you can use natural language in the Power Platform to start generating a formula rather than having to bounce back and forth between Bing or ChatGPT. You stay in the context of the app. Microsoft's already doing that. In this case, they've been doing it with Open for a couple of years.
Yeah, and the Power Automate AI builder, that was an Ignite announcement last year, wasn't it?
I think
Wasn't it,
so.
like, in the fall of last year? Yeah. So, like, a month before ChatGPT came out and kinda, like, blew up the world. Like, holy cow. It
Yeah.
it's interesting, like,
So,
from my perspective, I was just seeing, like, all of the people, like, it felt like to me like, oh, Microsoft's just scrambling to, like, capture headlines right now because it's the new hotness and everything. But seeing some of these blog posts come out, like, well, I guess they've been working this for a long time. It's not just something that's like hacked together, because like this window opened up between November and January that we've got to like redo Bing all of a sudden. Um,
I don't feel
it
like this
definitely
is
feels like
something
something
that's
they've
put
been at
together
work
on
with
a month. Like,
longer.
this is something that's very meticulously put together, and they've been working on it. Microsoft was an early investor in
Mhm.
OpenAI. They've re-upped that investment twice. Most recently, $10 billion of additional investment for a significant stake in the company.
Mhm.
And the fact that they have already made announcements for integrating it into the Office platform, doubling down on Teams premium features, and then the Power platform. I think that the
Yeah.
integration is going to continue to get deeper and deeper moving forward.
Yeah.
So I'm geeking out over it.
Yeah.
I think evidenced by the number of chats that I have running in Chat
Yeah.
GPT and over here. Um, I know there's probably some questions when you compare the Bing model to Chat GPT. Chat
Mhm.
GPT is currently using GPT 3.5. That's the current model. Supposedly, ChatGPT 4 is on the way. Those that have seen
Mhm.
it or know or in the know say it's a significant leap over 3.5. 3.5 is powerful. The version that Microsoft is using, they haven't said specifically, but they call it Prometheus. It's a customized tuned model built on top of Chat GPT 3.5. So maybe 3.7, speculating. But
Yeah, it's
it's
like somewhere a little bit more, but not 4, you know?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would imagine that when 4 comes out, they'll be able to pivot on that pretty quickly. And
Yeah.
also, there are some Microsoft people out there that are actively um, engaging and talking about what's going on. I'll bring this on the screen here. This is one of the Microsoft people that has been out there talking about it, where they've rolling commentary over the last couple of weeks
Mhm.
around what's rolling out.
It's a lot of
Or one of the
transparency
they,
from this
they
person.
claim to be a Microsoft person. They seem to have pretty good knowledge. They don't have a bio or picture or anything on there. But if you go back and you look at some of what they have been talking about over the last few days, what they're like, for example, the number of prompts going from 5 to 6, and the number of conversations going from 50 to 60 to 100. They announced that on this Twitter handle.
Mhm.
They talked some of um, the updates, the new tagging system that they're working with. So they're openly talking about this, and on top of that, this particular account is also reading some additional Microsoft accounts, and those accounts are also referencing some Microsoft blogs where they're officially talking about this. So I've been following this one to kind of keep up to speed, sending some of these
Mhm.
to John as well, to keep up to speed with what's actually happening. But you can see the posts and then the responses. So this one's a good reference. For example, just increased Bing limits 60 or 6 to 60 over here. We
Mhm.
know about image and video. We're working on it. So I've been kind of following this one to kind of keep an eye uh, abreast of what's happening in the community. And there's like 3 or 4 other Microsoft employees that are on the Bing team that are actively posting on Twitter around that. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there. That's how I've been kind of keeping up to date with some of the changes that they're making and some of the things that they're advertising, and we're seeing some of that in real time.
Yeah. Oh man, there's just so much to unpack. I feel like personally, I just need so much more practice with it, you know? You've definitely given me a lot of ideas for things like building a structure for an outline and then taking that into something a little bit more to build like a slide structure like that getting unstuck from getting started. Um the the research, like I think probably I need to go maybe to chat gpt to continue my research on kql in SharePoint, because basically I was running into that 5 prompt limit, now
Mhm.
6. I was running into that yesterday over and over again and losing the context, and it was like, because I'm in search term, you know, I'm stuck in the olden days, you know, of like 4 months ago, where like I'm giving it too short of prompts, and I need to like give it more, or go to chat GPT so I can like keep asking and building on questions. Because yeah, I didn't quite get what I needed yesterday through that custom query
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah, prompting is definitely I'm not gonna go to the Dan level of prompting with it, but, like, learning how to ask it what you want, and, like, sometimes you'll ask it and you think you got it right, and then it interprets, like, 1 or 2 words slightly off. You learn from that, and you're
mhm,
able to, like, pivot off of it,
yeah.
pretty quickly.
I think that's the opportunity in this new world for skilling up, right? And adapting to this
Mm,
is learning how to prompt well. I think there will be like
yeah,
opportunities for educating people, opportunities for, you know, being like I don't know if there's like going to be jobs for AI experts and, you know, people who know how to use these really well. I think it's going to be a skill, just like, you know, I mean, when I first started out of college, it was like really honestly the skill of a system engineer. Whenever I started was like, how good can you Google for stuff? You know, like how good are you at just finding stuff without bothering the senior engineers around you? I think how good you are at like getting what you need out of an AI tool, I think is probably going to be that next like skill to go work on, you know, and you've got a head start on me for sure.
I've had fun with it. There's been some late nights where the TV's been off, and I've just been plugging away at it, just trying to learn and see what it can do.
Yeah.
Do we want to pivot to our wish list and talk about what we would like to see come from the new Bing and the
Yeah.
OpenAI integration?
Yeah. I
So
think
for me, the biggest is the ability to save conversations. I hope that
mm,
that is implemented soon, sooner rather than later. Need to go back and revisit, pick up on a conversation, have a reference to that. I think is probably my number one ask. I really want to be able to have
mhm,
a saved chat thread, a saved search chat thread, and to a certain extent, you get that depending on like where you go. Like I click here and you see it. It does show me some previous searches, but if I go back into that,
mhm,
it took up the conversation where we left off. It starts over the conversation, so it doesn't have that awareness of what we talked about before. So having a saved chat, I think, would be pretty big on the list for me.
mhm. I think 2 things for me. First is removing the turn limits, you know, like have more than 6. That's a short term I would like to see. That's on my wish list. I think Microsoft's working on that. You know, it seems like that guy Mikhail, like he's posting so frequently. I think we're going to see that limit raise over and over again over the next couple weeks. Um, Longer term, I think my biggest wish list it would be the integrations. I'm really interested to see what integrations there are with Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and Outlook. Um, in my job, what I do, and I know that like, you know, with semi-annual channel and stuff, like I probably won't actually see this until way, way into the distant future. But you know, one thing I do is like I have to consume slide decks that are like, you know, 60 different slides or something like that. And right now with the sidebar, you can't like summarize slide decks because it only can read like what's on screen. So I think when that's built into PowerPoint, if you're able to like pull out information from like a very lengthy slide deck, I think that would be really helpful for me, if you know all of the security and privacy stuff can get figured out to the point that I could actually use it. You know, I think it's just it's going to take a lot of convincing, and I think it's going to take a long time before you know, agreements are in place, and who knows what's going to happen with like European regulations and stuff like that to try to like honestly just fight the inevitable that like all of this stuff is going to transform the way that we work and the way that we live. um i I think sooner or later we're going to get there, you know. um Those would be my biggest wish list items. I think the other thing I would like to see is the ability to talk to it more. Um, like I see, I use my Echo a lot, my Amazon Echo. I think this will probably be built in by Amazon. Google will probably build it into theirs. I On my phone, I found an iOS shortcut. So there's a video out there for how to. The guy has a shortcut like inside of the description, and it uses ChatGPT an API key. So you go to your account, you get an API key, you import this shortcut, and then now I have something called like Siri Pro on my phone, so I can tap that and then I can like ask it something. It searches Chat GPT and gives me the answer, as like a paragraph. Um, Another thing that you might not have seen is yesterday the Bing app, the mobile app got updated. So if you got the Bing app on your phone, now it has the chat bubble in the bottom middle. And if you have your volume turned up, if you use that and you talk to the Bing chat, the Bing AI voice will read it back to you. So you're getting like a voice conversation back and forth. I'm hoping soon that we'll see that capability added to like the desktop version. So I can kind of like sit at my desk, I can like hit a hotkey and talk to it, instead of like having to sit there and like craft the perfect paragraph prompt. For me, I think it might be a little bit more natural to just talk about it and have it be like a natural back and forth. So I think voice would be another wish list item for me.
Yeah, I can see that. I've been refreshing the mobile app every few days just to see when the update's going to come out there. Um,
Yeah. Have you gotten it yet? Have you like tested
it
that?
just came through. Just saw it.
Okay, yeah, because I got it yesterday. I have the Bing icon. They're also on iOS. There's a Bing widget. So on like my widget screen, I put the Bing search thing. Right now, what that does is if I tap the microphone, it takes me to Bing. Oh, it did. Okay, so yesterday it was just taking me to the Bing app, but this time what it did is I tapped the microphone and it opens up and says it says I'm listening right now. So I could just start talking to it with that. So I think that's better than it was even yesterday. Is it invokes the voice chat. You'll have
See,
to
with the
test that out.
voice and the mobile, you're ahead of me on that. I'm doing most of it through my desk or through my laptop and doing it through my iPad. That's where I participate with it the most.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, laying in bed late at night. I'm not going to do voice. I don't want to disturb or wake up my wife. So I'm just, tapping away
Mhm.
on the screen there. But
Yeah, I could see where like I would use it like on a walk,
yeah,
Like I used to walk around my neighborhood before I had meetings all morning because of my new job. um, I used to like walk and listen to podcasts, and I could see where like if I had an idea or I wanted to like have a chat or something, I'd be like talking to myself, but I would like use my earbud to like talk to Bing, while I'm on a walk, just ideating. Which leads me to another tool that I found recently for podcast listening with AI is an app called Snipped. There's another one called Air, AIRR. The one I use is Snipped, SNIPD. And what's cool about that, if you're a person who listens to a lot of podcasts, you can, while you're listening, if there's something you want to remember for later, you just like triple tap your earbuds, and then it will save that clip as like a highlight, and then you can like generate like transcripts, and you can summarize like what was like the gist of those highlights, and it will take your podcast and it will add intelligent chapters for you so you can get through your podcast listening a lot faster. But I see that those things being used like on the go a lot more, you know.
so that brings me up to my other wish list item, and this is, I think, also a pre of another show that we have planned, and that's the integration of this technology into note taking and personal knowledge management. That's something that I'm really keen on seeing. So we've talked about doing a show about uh, comparison of OneNote to Notion to Obsidian and other knowledge management apps. And as part of that conversation, we've also ran into other apps like Snipped and Air for capturing information while you're working or listening to a podcast. Other apps out there like Instapaper for capturing notes while you're on the web. There's the OneNote web clipper and information together. John and I have been doing some research comparing what is available in OneNote versus other note-taking apps like Notion. We're actually experimenting with Notion for just our show production because it gives us notes and task management and some other features.
Mhm.
I'm curious to see if Microsoft's going to roll any of these AI features to OneNote and the note-taking experience, take that to the next level. I'm curious if they're going to bring Microsoft Loop into OneNote and what they're going to do with that. But in the meantime, we've been experimenting with some other and just kind of a preview down the road. I'm going to switch over to my notebook for this. Recently in Notion, there is an AI that's built into it. So you can use that and ask the Notion AI to help you write something, to
Mhm.
continue writing something, to start summarizing information. There's a limit of 20 prompts
Total,
currently as
not
like
per
all
month.
time, 20 per month. Okay.
No, no,
Um,
it's total, not per month.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
which is a
hold on.
bummer.
So there's a
Yeah.
limit of 20 before you have to go into the paid model.
Mhm.
The paid model, it's an annual purchase with Notion and the AI add-on, it's going to cost you $16 per user per month. Um, Chat GPT Plus is $20 per user per month. Is Bing going to do a premium model? Don't know. Don't know what the pricing around that would potentially be. But in doing some comparison, Notion's a little under what some of the others are doing. Um, we just got this capability yesterday. We haven't even had like a chance to like dive into it to like really understand what Notion
I
AI
know,
is.
I haven't done any prompts because I don't wanna use up my 20 too fast. I don't know, for me, I would probably, like, buy the $10 a month option for Notion because, like, you can do it with a free account and then just add on, but it's, like, $2 more. So if you do it with your free at Notion account, it's 10 bucks. If you combine Plus and AI, then it's like 16 a month. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn because like the only thing I'm running into is like trying to attach a file that's bigger than I think it's like 5 megabytes. That would like push me up to the plus version. But I don't know. I'm still torn about that because like by the time I pay for Notion and Readwise Reader and Chat GPT premium and whatever Bing ends up charging someday in the
Yeah,
future potentially, and, like, everything else, it's like, I don't wanna pay, like, $100 a month out of pocket for all these things,
exactly. Yeah, we're gonna have to
you
pick and
know?
choose. I do want to do a sneak peek of a reader since you just mentioned it. There's an
Mhm,
app out there called Readwise, and Readwise allows you to capture highlight Kindle book, highlights from the web, highlights from other places, and it brings it together and it's in one place, and then it gives you a daily digest. Well, they recently released a thing called Reader, and you can go to read.readwise.io. Uh, Readwise for me has been a replacement of a bunch of different apps. It has the Readwise highlighting built into it, but it does what Feedly does, allows me to pull RSS feeds and to put them into one place.
mhm,
Allows me to pull blogs, put them all in one place. Allows me to pull newsletters and put all of that. But I can also point Reader to things like social media and have it pull information from social media and consolidate it, videos, YouTube, and so forth. So it allows me to aggregate content from a bunch of different sources like this for quite a while. Bringing all of this into one place allows it. So I can create
mhm,
different views. These are like let me reload. These are like RSS feeds that are specific to Microsoft blogs. So Microsoft's like, here's how to get started with Teams Premium, and there's an article around that, or a partner out in the community has something related to that, or the Microsoft changelog. I'm just
Yeah.
consolidating all that in one place, but it's all these different sources. Cool thing about um, Reader that I found is that it has this really awesome summary feature built into it. It's auto summarizing some of the content for me from these various articles, but I'll go down into a source. For example, Chris Tort, Teams Real Simple with Pictures. Great blog on this one, working with the video playlist for Stream on SharePoint. Chris is an MVP. He's VP now. And he's got a great blog and some great information. But
Hmm.
this is a good bit of information to get through. It's about 1,000 words. It's going to take me, it says 4 minutes to get through it. But Readwise tracks my progress as I move through here. I can actually just use my keyboard to browse through here. And when I get to something that's important, I can highlight on that. So like here, this blog is going to cover these things, and I can make highlights on that.
Hmm.
So if this is important, just highlight it, and I can also go and tag that particular highlight. Like, what is this going to apply to? In this case, this is Microsoft Stream. So now I've highlighted and I've tagged that. So it's allowing me to organize the things that I think the takeaways from this thing. It's got a summary over here that it auto generated. So for those of you familiar with SharePoint syntax, this is kind of like that little snippet. If you're familiar with like a SharePoint document library, when you hover over an item, it kind of gives you a little. You get that
Hmm.
with this as well, but there's also a note feature. So it's got a notebook, and it just shows me some of the things that I just highlighted, and they're consolidated. And as I click on that, it'll actually take me to that part of the article, which I think is really, really cool. And then
Yeah.
you can do some different things with that. But you can also add in your own notes here, your thoughts and takeaways, and you can use that as a way to expand on that content. And then if there are links, you can reference the links. But this was the thing that like really sold me on here is this there Ghost Reader.
Yeah.
Ghost Reader is a version of AI that's built into this platform where I can do things like ask the document a question and it'll search through with natural language and find something related to that, summarize the document, generate thought-provoking questions to help me retain this information, create Q&A pairs, or do something custom. So I might have a summary document, and it's running. You see it in the lower corner here. So it's kind of working through that. And then in a second, there's the summary. This blog covers the process of creating a video playlist in Teams using the new for video playlists. And it just kind of summarizes inside of there. And that's the AI component that's actually built into this tool. I'm showing you this as a preview because we're going to talk about personal productivity a little bit more in depth. And this has been something that I've used for like the past few, has become really indispensable to like my beginning and end of week to keep track of all the changes in the Microsoft world. The only thing that I would like this app to extend into is to expand that notebook into a full-blown notebook. I can take this stuff and import it
Yeah.
into like Notion for that, but I would like to see them actually roll a full-blown notebook into the service and really give me one-stop shop. But I wanted to kind of preview that because we are going to do a deep dive into the different note-taking apps and then some of the corresponding AI features that these things are starting to incorporate, but also some of the other apps that we use to manage our productivity, to stay on top of what's happening in the Microsoft world.
Yeah. Yeah, so definitely stay tuned for that. I think we're gonna target that for next month potentially, to chat about like Notion versus OneNote versus like, how we do task management, gathering content from articles and podcasts and things like that. I've felt very overwhelmed the past couple months of like just the flood of stuff and how in the heck am I gonna organize my life, So I've been going through this journey personally, and I think it'll be a fun topic to talk about because it'll probably resonate with a lot of people. So,
We are definitely
stay tuned
swimming
for that.
in uncharted waters. This is I
Yeah.
said this in the video that I released on YouTube. I really do feel like this technology is going to revolutionize the role of the information worker and what we do. And in the right hands, you're going to be able to do some really powerful things that you might not have been able to do before.
Yeah. Yeah. So, with that, we covered a lot of ground. We talked about a lot of cool stuff. Hopefully, this gives you guys some ideas of what you can do with not only the new Bing, but a lot of this AI stuff is getting built into a lot of productivity apps and just like personal knowledge management systems that hopefully it inspires you to kind of start this journey like we're just getting started as well. So that's all we've got for this time, I think. Anything else to add, Andy?
No, just going to go back and play with these tools now.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you in a few weeks to talk about the next thing that we'll deep dive into. And I hope you have a great month ahead. And we'll talk to you next time. Thanks again, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Andy.